What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dizek of the Dead back with another video. So, a lot of people fell for my April Fool's joke about Snow White being good. Apparently, y'all don't know what April Fool's is, but hey, glad you're back with us in reality. So, that was just a joke, but there was a lot of points that I did make in that video that I'm going to explain here. So, I will be talking about the new Snow White movie, the one that's not called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs because we don't want to offend the little people. So let's talk about it. First, I want to give a shout out to my good friends Luke and Austin for going to see the movie with me. This is my official review, like my official review, not my shill review, not my fake review. So we're going to talk about this. So the night before I saw this movie, I did see the original movie because I watched the original movie as a kid and I remember liking it, but much like Disney princess movies, I wasn't particularly interested in those. I mean, as a boy, naturally, okay, they're good kids movies and all. They're very fun, adventure, whatnot. But I didn't want to be a princess as a kid, right? I was more interested in Star Wars and Pirates of the Caribbean and the Marvel movie like Spider Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider Man movies. Like, that's what I was more interested in as a kid. I was more into that stuff. But I still watched those old Disney movies and I loved them. So as a kid, but I grew up, kind of got disenfranchised with them. Not that they were bad or anything. Not that I grew out of them. It's just that well, kind of did grow out of them. It doesn't really, you know what I mean. I haven't watched Snow White annually like I watched Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? Um, so I had watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, the original movie from the 30s, and the night before. And for brief summary, Snow White is the fairest in the land. It's a medieval Germany grim fairy tale. And the evil queen, who is her stepmother, uh, not much context added to that. Evil queen is asking her magic mirror who's the fairest of them all, and the magic mirror says Snow White is. So unless you get rid of Snow White, she's the fairest of them all. So the evil queen has Snow White attempted assassination, so she hires the huntsman to go and kill Snow White. The huntsman has a change of heart because he sees that Snow White is a sweet girl and she talks to animals and he can't do it. He can't end her life. So she runs off into the forest as the huntsman spares her life, while the huntsman brings back a fake heart, a pig's heart, in a box for the evil queen. So Snow White goes off into the forest. She makes friends with all the wildlife, and then she, for lack of a better term, breaks and enters into a house in the middle of the forest that belongs to the seven dwarves. Right. So as soon as she goes in, she's like, "This place is a mess. Whoever lives here must be children. Oh, they must be children without a mother. Well, I'll be their mother. I'll be the one that cleans up after them." So she immediately gets to work cleaning and cooking for whoever lived in that house, regardless who lived there. And I was like, damn, that's a good house guest. And not to mention, probably going to be a good wife one day. Take notes, ladies. Take notes. JK, but seriously. So she cleans up, then she goes and she takes a nap on their bed. And since she's a big human, she has to lay on three of the dwarves' beds. So then the dwarves come home from mining and they're like, oh, wow, somebody's broke into our house and cleaned everything. Well, okay, let's see who's upstairs. And they're like, oh, it's a girl. She's beautiful. It's a beautiful girl. And so they become friends. Of course, the only person who doesn't like it is Grumpy because he's an asshole. But that's just who Grumpy is. In fact, watching this as a kid, I admired Grumpy. Grumpy was my favorite character. That's for damn sure. And we had what Sneezy, Sleepy, Doc, Grumpy, Dopey. I got two more. I got two more, and I can't think of them. I can't think of them. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna edit this video, so I can't sit here, thinking about it. But Dopey was a sweet little guy. He didn't talk much, and the reason he didn't talk much was because uh, he never tried to talk. He never tried to talk. He was kind of like the puppy with Down syndrome. He was called Dopey for a reason. He was a little retard. He was stupid, okay, but he was happy. He was a happy little guy. Oh, Happy was another dwarf I forgot about. So Dopey was just a happy little guy. Whenever somebody made fun of him, didn't matter to him. He had a smile on his face. Poor guy was bald, retarded, and everybody called him Dopey. But you know what? Little lovable guy. Nothing ever bothered him, right? Keep that in mind. So we're still talking about the original movie here. The evil queen eventually finds out that Snow White is still alive. And so her plan is to turn herself into an evil hag, an evil witch, an ugly witch, to bring a poison apple and poison Snow White. So when this happens, the dwarves are out of the house, and then the evil queen comes up as an old hag trying to give Snow White the apple. Snow White accepts the apple and bites into it, poison apple, and she dies. She doesn't really die per se, but she goes into an endless sleep, basically a coma. And that's because the evil queen showed up as a hag to sell apples for a pie, right? For the pie. And so she bites the apple, she goes into a coma, and then she runs off. The dwarves find out, and the dwarves chase the evil queen while she's still disguised as the hag. And you have to remember if I mean you probably haven't seen this movie. Who knows? If you have or if you haven't, it doesn't matter. The evil queen goes through a lot of steps. She goes through a lot of steps to turn herself into an old hag, into an ugly old bitch, basically. So the dwarves chase her, and she goes up to the top of a cliff. She accidentally falls off a cliff due to her own hubris, and she ends up falling to the bottom and she dies. The dwarves didn't push her. The dwarves didn't do anything. The evil witch died of her own volition. All right, now that we got that out of the way, the movie's getting pretty close to the ending here. And there is a dialogue sort of like scroll explaining some exposition. You have to remember this is Walt Disney's first ever movie, first ever feature-length film. And they worked hard on it. The artistry, the craft, you got to respect it. Looking more into it, you got to respect that shit, man. That must have taken, I mean, to write and draw each frame of the movie, that takes some dedication and hard work. And to start an empire with Walt Disney with this movie, we'll get more into it. The movie basically ends with Snow White in a coma, then Prince Charming, I want to say Prince Evan? Fuck, it was something. I can't remember now. But he shows up out of nowhere. We saw him earlier in the movie. He didn't do much. He just had a crush on her, and he tried to flirt with her, and she wasn't having it. She was too nervous. But he kisses her. True love's kiss was going to wake the sleep. So the sleeping girl, he kisses her. She wakes up, and everybody lived happily ever after. The movie's not exactly a strong plot. We're not talking about Shakespeare here. We're not talking about a Tarantino movie. We're not talking about, something that was meant to blow the minds of little children. This was a kid's movie with a very simplistic plot based off of a Grimm fairy tale. So there wasn't a lot of engagement. In fact, I was a little bit bored watching the movie again as an adult. As a kid, I wasn't particularly bored, but there's a lot of lessons about this movie that pertain to the virtues of hard work. We had Whistle While You Work, which was all about cleaning and being able to be competent at hard work. The Hi Ho song was about hard work with the dwarves. The virtues of kindness and joy from Snow White. The virtues of hygiene. They spent 5 minutes just getting grumpy to take a fucking shower. So the virtues of hygiene, hard work, kindness, joy, while also warning kids about the problems with hubris and jealousy with the evil queen, or how she was jealous of Snow White, of her beauty, and the hubris that it took for her to try and go out of her way to get rid of Snow White. There was a lot of great lessons that this movie teaches to little kids, and so you got to respect it, even if you don't, even if it's not your thing. You got to respect the craft that went into making this story, into making this film, and it built Disney's empire from the 30s, basically. Now, let's talk about the remake. Let's talk about Disney's remake. I've covered Rachel Zegler in other videos. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to talk about the movie this time. So, all those other videos, you can go watch them on my channel. They add more context to this movie. But we're going to actually talk about the movie itself. And, of course, you can watch my April Fool's joke of a review. It pretty much covers the same thing, but from the shill's point of view. Now, the movie begins with a musical opening of Snow White's parents, something we didn't get with the cartoon. And you have to remember the cartoon is maybe a solid hour and a half long. It's pretty tight knit, gets straight to the point, doesn't waste a lot of time, mostly a musical. This movie adds an extra 10 minutes that's kind of unnecessary. But we're going to talk about it because they could have cut a lot of that fat out if they really wanted to. We open up with um, Snow White's parents running the kingdom. And of course, they're a little bit more dark than how they should be in a medieval Germany. And they named their daughter Snow White because of the day that she was born was a snowy day. What are all these multicultural, diverse people doing in medieval Europe on a snowy day? I have no idea. Most of that country looks like modern day California. So we're already going into Rings of Power, The Witcher, uh, Blood Origin, like we're Willow. We're taking the medieval Europe aspect out and fully tokenizing it, going full DEI on it. So you can already bet that this shit's gonna be woke as fuck, and it ends up being woke as fuck. So let's keep talking about it. As soon as her mother dies for whatever reason, they don't explain. They don't explain why Snow White's mother dies. The evil queen shows up out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. She's just a random witch that rolls into town, and her dad, Snow White's dad, is immediately thirsty again. I mean, it is Gal Gadot, so I mean, can you blame him? But when are we gonna stop giving Gal Gadot a pass? Anyway, that's a different video. Basically, he goes off to battle. We don't really see what happens to him. That is Snow White's dad, leaving the evil queen to rule over the kingdom and turning Snow White into a slave, very much like the original movie. Now, the funny thing that Asmongold points out is that as soon as when a man runs the kingdom, everything's great. Everybody's singing about how great things are. Everybody has free food, all that bullshit. Yeah. A little socialist utopia. And then all of a sudden, when a woman takes over, everything turns into a fascist dystopia. And so the woman is the problem. The evil queen is the problem. She's the fascist leader. So Snow White doesn't flirt with a Prince Charming. In fact, she flirts with like a farm boy who tries to steal bread. And he's like, when are you going to stand up to the fascism, Snow White? Whatever, something like that. And he runs away after being humiliated. Follows a lot of the same steps as the original movie with small details changed. Obviously, this is woke Disney. How fitting of them. So the huntsman is black. Sure, why not? Let's make all the bad guys black too. Race swaps and tokenism doesn't change how bad this movie is. Honestly, they could have made everybody black. It wouldn't have made a damn difference. But he just can't kill Snow White. Just can't do it. He doesn't see that she's doing anything. In fact, Snow White stands up to him, chest out, chin up. Do it. Kill me. With a knife at her throat. She doesn't want to be seen as weak, and Disney doesn't want the little girl who's only 5'4" to be seen as weak. This little 16-year-old child, and so he can't kill her. So he forces her to go away. Definitely different from the original story. She goes into the woods. She breaks and enters into the dwarf's house, but she doesn't clean up or anything. She just goes straight to bed, and the dwarves come home. The evil, nasty CGI monsters that they were, disgusting little fucks, that I nearly puked during their musical session, their musical number, because I couldn't stand watching the eyesore that was their Uncanny Valley fucking musical part. But their CGI was god awful. So they come home and they immediately think that she's a monster. I would too if I saw Rachel Zegler sleeping in my bed uninvited. I would think, oh yeah, shit, a monster broke into my house. So they run away and they make it a whole big deal. So then they switch up the whistle while you work thing. So originally, as I said before in this video, the whistle while you work moment was when Snow White comes to the dwarves' home and cleans up their house for them. Well, Rachel Zegler's Snow White, she sings whistle while you work while forcing the dwarves to clean up their own mess. And she doesn't do fuck all, even though she broke into their house, and she's a terrible house guest. They cook for themselves, so she literally doesn't do anything for the dwarves to make them like her. She's actually more unlikable in the movie because of that. Of course, that's a part of intersectional feminism. That's what they do. It's like, oh, the women aren't supposed to do anything, making them lazy as fuck. That's intersectional feminism for you. And so the dwarves make fun of Dopey. I thought that was kind of funny. I had a laugh at that. Dopey's got hair this time, and as my friend Austin points out, he looked like the little kid that was the little dreamy kid from Polar Express. The CGI looked like Polar Express mocap, dog. No, I'm not even playing with you. Not even playing with you. It looked like mocap from Polar Express. And so Dopey doesn't know how to speak in the movie. Dopey doesn't know how to speak, and he can whistle though, and that's cool because I think Dopey whistled in the original movie. All right, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. There was also a narrator early on. Keep that in mind as well. There was a narrator of the movie who sounded like Rosie O'Donnell, but that's neither here nor there. Just, you know, the angry lesbian talking over the mic. A lot like these videos. Am I right? Am I right, haters? Am I right? We ain't done. I'm not done thrashing this fucking movie, and I'll go full on, what was it called? Filibuster. I'll go full on filibuster. No edits, no nothing. I'll keep going. And so, basically, we get to the point where Snow White breaks away. She leaves the dwarves for no reason, really, to add an extra 5-10 minutes to this movie, where she runs into the medieval fantasy version of Antifa, and those were the bandits, the bandits from the original promotion, the one with the one dwarf and the other multicultural baristas. You remember that? So they're in the movie still, and she runs into them, and then the guy that she was flirting with earlier deflects the arrow to save her life. And then she's like, oh, I got to fight fascism with the bandits. And then the bandits come home with them to the dwarves to save the dude's life because he had an arrow in his heart. And I was just like, I was so bored. I was so bored watching that part. I was laughing my ass off at the dwarf, not the CGI dwarf, a literal small person. They could have given a job to 7 actual human dwarves. And they even had one in this fucking movie. Instead, they opted for CGI dwarves. And we had a real life dwarf next to the CGI dwarves. What the fuck? It was literally in the same goddamn frame. They didn't want to offend the little people. They didn't want to offend nobody. Oh shit, my camera went out. It's getting dark, so my camera's going out. Fuck it. We're gonna filibuster. We're gonna filibuster with a nocturnal video. I'm losing my mind here talking about this shit. Fuck, I'm gonna do this. I'm committed. No edits. I can filibuster. No edits. So, we have another musical number. Where Snow White was falling in love with this Antifa guy, a little white boy twink, guy. And you remember when Rachel Zegler was like, she's not going to get saved by the prince, and this isn't a typical love story? Motherfucker, this was straight up love story. It was so cringe. It was so Hallmark. And the editing was weird because they were trying to make it seem like it was just Rachel Zegler and the twink in the room, basically, but nobody around them. But there was definitely people around them, and they kept getting edited in and out. Honestly, I wish I could EFAP this so I could actually show y'all what I'm talking about so I don't sound insane. But I just don't have the technology or time for that right now. I'm going filibuster unedited. Let's do this. So, excuse me. This video is chaotic as fuck. I can't imagine what you guys are thinking watching this. Eventually, Snow White, the dwarves and the bandits try to take on the queen. The queen, she turns herself into a witch in less than 5 minutes, because 5 minutes was about the amount of time it took for the original movie's evil queen to turn into an old hag. It took Gal Gadot like less than a second. She just said, I need a potion. Boom. And even Gal Gadot, she overplays the queen. It's cringe. It's Broadway level musical numbers, Gal Gadot can't sing for shit. She just can't. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But she takes the potion after her musical number, and then she goes to Snow White. She doesn't try to sell her apples for the pie. She just says, "Hey, you want some free apples?" And she's like, "Free socialism." And so then she bites into the apple because she's a fucking idiot. Um, Gal Gadot doesn't fall off a cliff and die because she goes back to the kingdom and gets right back into her original beautiful form. So now Snow White, Rachel Zegler, is in a coma, and uh, the Antifa guy goes and kisses her to wake her up, very similar to the original movie. But that's where the original movie ends. We have an extra like 20 minutes on the runtime here. All right. So whenever Rachel Zegler wakes up, they're like, "How are we going to stop the Queen?" This is the part where I tapped out. This is the part where I nearly walked out of the theater, because then that's when Dopey looks up and he says, or they say, "The Queen will wipe us out. The Queen will wipe us out," is what Snow White says. And then Dopey looks up at Snow White and says, "Let her try," in a very epic voice. And all the people in the crowd, they were all like, "Oh my God, he spoke." And I just sat there just like this. I was like, yeah. What the fuck? First of all, how is this retard able to talk? I don't get it. First of all, he's never spoken a word in his life. You know, it takes skill, and it takes a lot of time to learn how to talk, how to articulate. Your throat muscles, you're so used to talking that your throat muscles are conditioned to do so. But if you don't talk, like any muscles, they get strained. So the fact that he's able to speak so clearly and say, "Let her try," in such a clear voice doesn't make sense. The dude should be like, "Let her try," because he's retarded. Because he's stupid. Because he's dopey. He has hair. They didn't want to make him bald. They didn't want to offend the retards. He's called Dopey because he's retarded. Fucking woke Disney. Oh, I'm going to wake up the neighbors with this shit, aren't I? But anyway, the fact that Dopey could articulate all those words, never mind even narrating the entire movie, because they eventually reveal that he's the narrator. He's the Rosie O'Donnell narrator. And it's like, how does the fuck is this guy able to talk, let alone narrate the entire goddamn movie? Is unreal. Jesus. So Dopey can speak now because we don't want to dehumanize people with mental disabilities. Fuck off, Disney. Fuck off, you child grooming, child enslaving, groomer ass fucking company. Have y'all thanked your Uyghur Muslim concentration camp yet? Have you shrunk John Boyega on the poster for China yet? You fucking clowns. God. Fucking woke agenda shit, man. And so basically, the rest of the movie, we see Snow White march into the kingdom, and she's leading the charge of a bunch of women. There's a few guys in the back, but it's just her on the front lines with a bunch of women. You think I can't see it? You think I don't see what you're trying to do, Disney? I've been watching this kind of garbage for the longest. You think I don't notice this shit? So then she marches up there with all the women, and this movie becomes less about the virtues of hard work, less about the hubris and jealousy, less about hygiene, less about all the things that made the original movie's themes work for children. This movie became about fighting fascism. That's what this movie was really about. It was about fighting fascism and becoming the leader you were always meant to be. Well, we didn't actually see her become a leader. We saw her dethrone the original leader. And so the movie's not really even about that shit. They're hoping for a sequel. This shit ain't gonna make no damn sequel. So Snow White and not the Seven Dwarfs, because this was all about Rachel Zegler. This is all about her and her pro-Palestinian sort of narrative. Which, to be fair, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to put my dogs into that fight in this video in particular. But to be fair, she might have some points on that, but it's mostly from the brain rot side of things. Like I said, we're not going to get into that, but all about fighting fascism was what this story was really about. And so I found it to be a huge waste of time. Uh, she even wears a white dress at the very end. Everybody's happily ever after, but she looked like Lord Farquaad from Shrek whenever he got married to Fiona. So the movie ends there. And then I saw that it was directed by Mark Webb, and I was like, what the fuck have they done to Mark Webb? What the fuck have they done to this man? And they had like one screenwriter, which was kind of a surprise. But it can't be that hard to be a hack, honestly. Um, this movie was woke garbage. It was just garbage in general. But at least now we can finally put this to rest. We can finally say goodbye to woke Hollywood. I mean, it's never going to go away. It's always going to be a category somewhere. But this movie's wholesale rejection by the audience, the fact that it's a remake, the fact that it's been tokenized, the fact that it's got themes of cultural Marxism and fighting fascism and all that dumb shit, along with unlikable people like Rachel Zegler getting involved, all of that amounting to this overspending CGI slop fest. The wholesale rejection of this finally proves that people are over it. They're done with Snow White. They're done with woke Disney. They're done with woke Hollywood. And honestly, I don't really know much more to add to this video. I've pretty much explained the entire plot. Sure, I might be missing some things. I'm sure I might have said stuff in the original videos I made that would help fit all the pieces in here. Honestly, this is a movie I never want to see again. And I'm glad I had friends that I got to see with it. Had a good time. But yeah, I didn't pay for this shit either. I didn't pay for it. Didn't pay for it, and I am so happy I didn't. I want this movie to fail. I want this movie to fucking fail. And I hope everybody involved with it gets fired. No, I mean, well, maybe not some people, you know, but like Rachel Zegler, go work at Broadway now. You know, like this movie was a fucking nightmare. It was nightmare fuel. I don't know. There's definitely better YouTubers out there that do this shit better than me, who edit their videos, who don't rant forever, and just fucking go off. But this movie, God, it was the culmination of like 10 years of just woke fucking garbage. And now it is the perfect ending to Disney's legacy. Walt Disney Corporation started with Snow White being a financial success in the 30s, kicking off their entire media empire. It's only fitting that the generic woke identity politics filled slop that is the Snow White remake is to how fitting of it is that is the end of the Walt Disney Corporation's sort of mainstream power. Walt Disney Corporation is no longer what it used to be, and this proves it. So, I think I'm going to conclude my video there. I've talked for long enough, probably more than I should have, and ranting this long has definitely made me tired. I don't know what else to say. I never want to watch this movie again. I don't want to talk about this movie again. I might pull up a review or two here and react to it or something, but other than that, thank you all for watching. This has been Dissect of the Dead. Snow White is a dead franchise, guaranteed. In fact, it might be the first one in my Dead franchises series. You know, who knows? We'll probably put that up there in the thumbnail. But thank y'all for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I will see y'all in another video soon. Don't smoke crack. And, yeah, everybody just have a good day. Don't watch Snow White. You can get your money back. You can always get your money back, but you can't get the time watching this movie back. Just don't do it.